Okay, that's awesome. I had to wait for the applause to die down before I could actually say something. Yes, is it full? Is it full? Is it full? Today you're going to learn a few lessons from Steve Gahagan on how to reformat your email. And last week I know I think I did a pretty good talk on reformatting your life too. So I thought I'd touch on that, but in a totally different way. The audio is pretty low. Let me move it up a tad. How's that? We're doing better now? It shows that I'm in the red here, so I'll just leave it at that. And I can adjust it for the recording anyhow. So with that, I'll just turn it down a tad. Okay, we'll leave it there. Steve's going to be talking about reformatting emails, and really, while you're going through that exercise, take a moment and try to figure out how it is you're going to start reformatting your own life. It's, there's a lot of important things we tend to forget about. And one of those things is family, of course, and taking care of ourselves. Now, I got an email from my dad this week. A friend of his died, and they were good friends of the family. When they grew up together, they were just young kids. My dad, he's 86 now, so, and she was pretty old too. So he sent me this picture of my Aunt Mary with my mother from way back in 1951. So I thought that was pretty cool. But along with that, he sent me an email that said, do you have time for coffee? So, I opened the email and I started reading it, and here's what it was. A professor, when things go wrong in your life, or there's too much to handle, when you don't have enough time in the day to get stuff done, you really just remember this sample of they called it the mayonnaise jar. I'm using a coffee cup. They called it the mayonnaise jar and 2 cups of coffee. So a professor stood before his class, filled up a jar, grabbed the jar from the back and started filling it up with golf balls. He turned to his class and said, "Is it full?" And of course everyone in his class said, "Sure, it's full. Look, it's full. It's full of golf balls. You can't fit any more balls in there. It must be full." So the professor then picked up some pebbles, which I have right here. I'll just grab them like this. And he started, adding more pebbles. As time went on, he'd give the jar a little shake and the pebbles would settle down into the little tiny recesses where the golf balls couldn't reach, of course. And I'll just give it a little hand here. So there you go. And then he looked at his students and said, "Is the jar full?" And of course they all said, "Yeah, it is. It's totally full. You can't fit any more stuff in there." So he reached down, he grabbed a handful of pebbles and sand, and he started filling it up that way. And I won't make too much of a mess here, Jan. I'll try not to. I'll get the vacuum out later. So in order not to make a mess, guys, this is, for illustration, but he filled this jar up, this mayonnaise jar, with, sand, pebbles, and once again it was full. And then he asked the students, "Well, what do you think? Does it look full to you?" "It looks pretty full to me. Sorry about the light. That probably killed the whole effect. Just hang on." And then he proceeded to grab a cup of coffee and another cup of coffee, and he poured the contents of one in. I'm not going to do that because I know I'll just make a mess, but you get the idea. So once again, he filled the empty spaces effectively, so it kept getting more and more and more and more full. Now, this is what the jar represents in your life. The golf balls are the important things, guys. The golf balls are the important things. The things like family, the things like children, the things like health, friends, your favorite passions. That's what the golf balls represent. The things that are, if everything else was lost in your life and they remained, you'd still have a pretty abundant life. Wouldn't you all agree with that? So your life would still be full. So the pebbles, on the other hand, are the things like, they're important things too. They're things that matter. They're things like your job, your house, your car. So that's what these things are, right? The pebbles. Now the little things, the sand, the pebbles, the small little stuff. If you put the sand, or if you put this little stuff, if you fill the jar with that stuff first, guess what you get? You get no room for the golf balls. You get no room for the other bigger chips. You got no room to pay attention to the things that are critical to your happiness and critical to your business, or to play with your children, or to go for a medical checkup and take care of yourself, or go out to dinner. Take someone you love, just call them up and say, dude, I love you, let's go out to dinner. There will always be time to clean up your house and fix the disposal and all that other stuff. But listen, you got to take care of the golf balls first, because they are the only things that matter. They are the only things that matter. So set your priorities. Set your priorities to those golf balls, because the rest is just sand. So one of the student raised her hand and inquired what the coffee represented, and the professor smiled and said, I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show that no matter how full your life may seem, there's always room for a couple of cups of coffee with a friend. So there you go, guys. So when you're reformatting your emails, consider it an ideal. Take that inspiration when you sit down to do that exercise, and listen to your intuition. Listen to where your passion lies, and start developing a plan of action that'll take you from here and take you to there. And when that happens, guess what? People start following you, and they say, hey, how did you do that? Can you help take me from here and get to where you are? And you can say, yes, I can, because I take care of the important things first, and I have lots of time, because the rest of the stuff is just sand. It's just sand. It just gets in the way. So if your life is full of just the small stuff, it's time to, take that moment, reorganize your life to what is important, right? You got your spiritual, you got your physical, and you got your mental side. Take care of it all. When you take care of it all, you sit in the center. And when you sit in the center, guess what happens? All the stuff that's going on around us just doesn't freaking matter. It just doesn't matter. It's just not real. It's just not there, because it's not your life anymore, because you're centered. You're taking care of the golf balls. You're taking care of the bigger rocks. You're taking care of your job, your career, the people around you. That's the golf balls, right? So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that illustration. I kind of enjoyed putting it together yesterday, and I really thank my dad for sending that email along, because it really followed up with what I said last week. And unfortunately, when I do these calls, I do not type out the text first. I just basically, say what's on my mind, or say what's in my heart, to try to motivate you guys to move forward. So with that, take care of the golf balls. Remember the mayonnaise jar and the 2 golf balls and the philosophy professor. And when you reformat your email, take the opportunity to try to reformat your life too. So with that, I'll give the room over to Janet, and I'm sure she will do a wonderful job introducing Steve. And I want to thank everyone for being here with us today, and welcome you back next week.